What's going on, YouTube? Another beautiful day here in New York, right in the heart of the beast. I just saw someone with a mask walking behind me. It made me a little bit nervous. I kind of felt like I was in a zombie movie. 2020 has kind of been like a horror movie that it gets scarier by the minute. No, but in all seriousness, I've had a great year. 2020 has been a great year. You know, when the whole thing started with the pandemic, I wasn't really shocked by it. I had actually gone to Costco or BJ's about 2 or 3 weeks before everything happened with the lockdowns, and I had just a shopping cart filled with food and water. I don't know exactly. I probably spent like $700 worth of stuff weeks before there was a shutdown or anything like that because, you know, you follow what's happening in China, you understand how the globalists operate. I said, okay, well, just about to hit the fan around here. And I remember I was in BJ's and I was talking to the cashier. He's a young guy, he's college age, and I was telling him about college and not to waste his money, how he should spend that time starting a business and whatnot. We were talking about being a man and stuff like that. He was a good kid. But at the time, he probably thought, oh, this guy's nuts. I told him, I said, you just wait a couple of weeks and you will see lines around the block of people trying to get the stuff that I have on this cart right now. He said, all right, we'll see. And I never got the chance to follow up with him, but he probably thought of me after and said, oh, that guy knew what he was talking about. But yeah, so the pandemic, when it started, it really didn't faze me much. I was already working from home, so that wasn't a big change for me. Working from home by choice, because believe it or not, I think the world is better when families stay together and spend their time together. And from the moment my boy was born, I said, no way am I missing even 1 second of his life, because if you haven't had children, you just don't know how joyful that is. So pandemic started and people were fighting each other for toilet paper and for food, and I was fine. I was with my family. I was already working from home. It wasn't a big change for me. And things actually, you know, in terms of what my wife was doing, slowed down a little bit. And, you know, we got to spend a lot of time together, even more, with all the original shutdowns and everything like that. So the pandemic wasn't really hard for me. And, you know, in terms of, oh, the government says you can do this or says you can do that, allegedly, could it be, allegedly, I continued to live my life and walk around without a mask, and allegedly, and, you know, obviously there were some hiccups with that, but all in all, things were good. And, you know, so the pandemic really, it wasn't that hard for me. And the pandemic, if anything, it gave me purpose. I said, okay, well, if you could see what's coming, you have to act on it. So I said, all right, I want to position myself. I don't want to be in debt. I don't want to be relying on the government's infrastructure to get food, right? I mean, think about when the pandemic started and you had all of these people worried about where their next meal was going to come from. And then you have a lot of these same people, and if the same thing happened again, would still be worried about where their next meal is going to come from. And it's like, hello, you have to adjust to the world as it is. So for me, I said, all right, a few simple solutions. I don't want to be in debt, because if they shut down the economy again and it gets to the point where it affects me, I don't want them to have that type of power over me. So I made preparations, and right now my house is in contract, so I'm selling my house, and I have some land I purchased down south. So I'll be moving down south, and I have 1 plot of land, and my wife's parents, my in-laws, will be on the plot of land next to us. And when it's all said and done, we're going to build the house. I should have, it's hard to tell right now with these things. Oh, look at that guy. That's my father. I'm at my parents' house for Sunday. He's probably like, what is Brett doing in the car? He was just hanging out. But yeah, so I'll be down south, and I hopefully with no debt, but even if it's debt, it will be, comparative to what I have right now in New York, it'll be very, very manageable. But hopefully it's none. Right now, how I'm planning, it should be about none, but with a build, things could go wrong. So hopefully nothing goes wrong. You never know. And I'll have my land, and my in-laws will have their land, and we'll grow our own food and really just be ready to crush, because I want to be self-sustainable. You have to, plan for the world as it's going to be, not the world that you grew up in. And when you see everything that's unfolded this year, you see everything with the pandemic and the zombie apocalypse. I mean, most of you probably aren't. I can't imagine it's as bad in flyover country, so to speak, as it is in New York. But like, even to this day, I walk around New York and all these people with their masks on, and I feel like I'm in The Walking Dead. And they yell at me and they give me looks and they're like, aren't you gonna put on your mask? Aren't you gonna put on your mask? And I'm like, leave me alone. Go back into your basement and spend your day watching your pornos. Leave me alone. I'm just trying to go about my life. I am not a virus. But they apparently, some people may consider me to be a virus. But I would say, how do you live your life? I think your actions are that of a virus. And I wasn't even like, right from the beginning, I suspected the virus wasn't that big of a deal. But a part of me was like, okay, well, in my opinion, am I allowed to say this, YouTube? In my opinion, the virus is a BIO weapon. Well, at least it was from the start. I later realized, even if it is, it's like the most pathetic weapon in the world. I mean, I'm in New York and I've been walking around without a mask. My parents do, everyone, and sure enough, everyone's just fine. And if you I don't know if some people in my family had it because we don't do the testing, but there was a period where a few people in my family got like flu-like symptoms. We certainly weren't going to the hospital because they put you on ventilators and leave you to die. Never mind, YouTube. They don't do that. Yeah, but you might want to seek alternative medical opinions if you find yourself in that situation. If you catch my drift. But anyway, so yeah, a few people in my family had some type of sickness. I don't know. It could have been what they described, but like any other sickness, they just rested for a few days, drank a lot of water, sweated it out, and they were fine. And I know so many people in the community, and they've gone about living their lives, and sure enough, everyone's fine. As long as you don't find yourself in a hospital and put in a ventilator, sure enough, your immune system. But either way, so like when it first started, right, I was like, oh man, well, what if this is some type of weapon? Should I be nervous about it? I said, no, I'm not. I'm going to take personal responsibility. Just like selling my house to get out of debt, just like planning to grow my own food. I said, all right, I'm going to take personal responsibility. So when the whole thing started, what did I do? I allegedly took some, am I allowed to say it? Vitamin. I'm just trying to throw off the algorithm here. I took, C, D, Z-I-N, C. You get it. So anyway, elderberry. So I took all these things, and I haven't had a drink since March, which I don't think I'm going back from there, because you stop drinking and it is fantastic. I feel great. I feel really good. But I stopped having alcohol. I started running, working out, generally living a healthy life and building up my immune system. Now, I don't think I actually had to do anything with what the virus turned out to be. Am I allowed to say it doesn't scare me? So anyway, I took personal responsibility and built up my immune system and working on getting out of debt and grow my own food, and I already homeschool my child and all that good stuff, so I wasn't worried. I mean, I didn't need a virus to figure out that I wasn't going to send my son to an institution that would tell him he should hate himself because he was born with a certain skin color. I mean, do you really need a virus? I was going to send my son to the people that would tell him to hate himself and give up all his rights for his skin color. But then there was a virus. Nope, I didn't need that. So I wasn't going to send my son to school anyway, and getting out of debt and growing my own food and taking personal responsibility. I'm even starting to get into learning how to exercise my rights in a way that I never thought possible before, but I'm not quite versed on it enough to get deep into it with you. But let me just say, all right, there's people like Tom Burnett in Australia, Crow 77 Radio, a CRROW 77radio.com. Make sure you spell that right, because there's I guess an imposter that bums traffic off of him. I think they have like Crow 777 Radio with just the one R. But if you go listen to his show, go to his website. The last probably month worth of episodes have all been about understanding our rights and how our rights have been subverted. If you give it a serious listen, you'll realize how much power you have. That we are conditioned into this state to think we don't have power, we can't fight back. Oh my God, Governor Cuomo said you have to wear a mask. Well, if Governor Cuomo told you had to take a pine cone and shove it up your ass, would you? He doesn't have the legal authority to do that. But people don't know how to exercise their rights, so they're like, oh, I bet I'll put on the mask. My wife, my health insurance. If you like your healthcare plan, you can keep your healthcare plan. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. I had to get a new doctor this year because that wasn't true. For the third straight year, I've had to get a new doctor. So my wife picked out this doctor, young lady, absolutely terrible. I told her I'm not going back. She was like, "Why won't you go back for the follow-up?" I was like, because I spoke to the doctor about the virus, and she was like, "You have to wear your mask." And I said, I'm not worried about it. She said, "Well, what's going to protect you from the virus?" And I said, my immune system. And she looked at me sideways. I said, "Oh God, I can't come back to this lady. What am I going to go for her for medical advice when I understand health better than her? Come on." Read Plato's Republic, lady. He said 3,000 years ago that if you can't figure out that nutrition is health, then you're mask-tarded. Oh, I'm in a good mood today. Has anyone came up with that word yet? I'm sure they have. If not, I'd like to patent it. Mask-tarded. What are you one of those mask-tards? I did my first patent this year. That was a nice learning experience. Did my first patent. Not patent. No, I'm sorry. That's a lie. It's not a lie. I just spoke inaccurately. I did my first trademark this year. Cubs to Bears. If you haven't checked out my work, the Cubs to Bears children's book series, I wrote Good Bears Always Tell the Truth. I wrote The Right to Bear Arms. Good Bears Always Tell the Truth. It's about morality and what happens when you get caught up in a lie. People get caught up in a lie, they get blackmailed, and unfortunately, I was listening to an interview. Every now and then I pop into the sports world just to get away from the garbage, but then I can't listen to it because they promote more garbage. But I was listening to an old interview. I saw the book on the stream. Oh, did you like the book? By the way, if you read, or even if you liked The Right to Bear Arms on Amazon, type in Cubs to Bears, The Right to Bear Arms. If you could go drop a review on that. I haven't pushed to get reviews. Like on Good Bears Always Tell the Truth, I asked people to give me reviews, and I have 17 ratings on Amazon. They're all 5-star. Not that I care about that, but if you understand like the algorithms, it's important for the algorithms. So I didn't push for reviews for The Right to Bear Arms, but I didn't care. And 2 people did organic reviews, and they're both 5 stars. Yay! But anyway, I checked back the other day. Someone gave my book a 3-star review. And it wasn't a verified purchaser either. I was like, why don't you tell me your name? You give me a 3-star review, we'll have a fist fight. You know, I worked hard on that book. And by the way, it's fire for anyone that's listened to it. But yeah, if you could pop over to Amazon and just pop a review on that, I'd really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, so I was listening to Pat McAfee, who I just can't listen to anymore because he's just so immoral. But I usually don't anyway. But he was doing an old interview he did with, who was it? What's his name? I'm from the UK. I was just wondering about. Hold on. I just was wondering how we know about election fraud. Anything I could read, watch to understand it better. I mean, Project Veritas. If you go to their YouTube page, they have a lot of undercover videos about the election fraud. They also have whistleblowers who work for the post office that testified and apparently are willing to do it via signed affidavit, which, for those of you not familiar with the legalisms, my father's, look at him, he gave me that look. I was going to roll the window down and yell at him, but the car's on. I came in here because my 2-year-old and my 4-year-old niece think I'm a jungle gym. So if I tried to do this in the house, it's not going to happen, folks. It's not going to happen. But, what was I talking? Oh, yeah, so Project Veritas for that. So anyway, they have a video with a whistleblower at the post office who apparently is willing to do a signed affidavit. So a signed affidavit in the law, basically an affidavit is the same as if you went into court, swore on the Bible, and testified in front of the judge. So when you submit a signed affidavit, and again, I'm not a lawyer, this is not legal advice, but the way it works is if there is no party, and this is why it's powerful, if there is no party, so he did an affidavit saying that his higher-ups at the post office ordered him to backdate ballots that came in after the election was over, backdate them to November 3rd, the day of the election. So now if there's no one at the post office or none of his higher-ups are willing to give sworn testimony or their own affidavit saying it's not true, well then they tacitly accept it. His testimony becomes, legally speaking, the fact of the matter. So it's when you hear someone did a signed affidavit in legal terms, that's very important. Anyway, I got sidetracked. You guys asked me a question. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, I was talking about, I was watching Pat McAfee. The referee, there was a referee in the NBA. He got arrested by the FBI. He was fixing games, right? He was fixing games. And what he was explaining, because he served his time, look up Dominion voting systems and a computer program called Scorecard, developed by Dennis I'm not familiar with that at all, but maybe when I watch this back, I'll try to look into that. So yeah, Pat. So here's what the referee said. He said he fixed a few guys. Guys. He's just fixing a few games for a couple of his close friends. We're going to make a couple $100,000. We're going to, listen, put a lot of money on the Mavericks Heat game. And I'll fix the game. No big deal. We'll just do this a few games and we'll make a shit ton of money. Sounds good, right? Right? And it didn't work out. So how obnoxious does that sound? I regretted making that sound as soon as I made it. But, so basically what happened is one of his friends ran their mouth. And a guy in the mafia got wind of it, caught wind of it. Yeah, now you got problems, referee. So the mob showed up at the referee's house, and they said, we found out you've been doing this, and either you're going to work for us now, or we're going to turn you over to the FBI, and you're going to go to prison. So the referee, yeah, you're in a rock and a hard place now, buddy. So then he had to fix games. It's a program that switches votes. They are talking about, yes, I haven't looked deep into that, but apparently, from what I heard in Michigan, there was a computer glitch. For those of you not listening, I did air quotes because a computer glitch means they did it on purpose and they don't want to admit it. But apparently 6,000 votes that were for Trump were switched to Biden. That's a 12,000 vote swing right there. And that program is apparently being used in 30 states. I would, a good citizen like me would strongly doubt. I strongly doubt that the program is having the same. Wolves and Sheeple is in the house. He was just suspended. Make sure you follow his channel. He knows about this stuff better than me. Like, if you want the nuts and bolts of what's going on with the election fraud, follow Wolves and Sheeple YouTube channel. He had me on. He had me on for an interview, I guess, or just a talk. I don't like to be like the subject of an interview. He had me on for a talk. We talked about my books, which, by the way, this long runaround story, and 47 counties in Michigan, 6,001 county. Thanks, man. I'm just a regular guy. You know what you are? I envy you. Not envy, I don't like that word. I admire you. And I realized this when we had our talk. You are stoic. My father's stoic, I'm not stoic. I'm like animated and I'm always giggly and smiling. But like stoic is strong. Stoic. Right? Marcus Aurelius, right? About being stoic. I feel like there's a lot of strength in a man who is not smiling all the time, has a serious demeanor about him, doesn't show emotion. It's just not my makeup, but I think that's fire. So anyway, this whole runaround story was actually about my books, which, Wolves and Sheeple had me on for. So, yeah, all right, so the referee, he gets caught in this situation, right? The mob catches him in a lie. And then the mob says, you're going to fix games for us. Otherwise, we're going to hand you over to the FBI. So now he's not just fixing a few games. Now he's in a situation where he has to fix whatever the mob tells him to fix. Yeah, please do a review on the book. Someone gave The Right to Bear Arms a 3-star, and it pissed me off. By the way, I have a book coming out in the next 2 weeks, so if you want to have me on again, I'd really appreciate that. I had a good time talking. So the referee gets caught in this situation by the mob, and now he has to fix games for the mob. And now it goes from fixing 1 or 2 games to you better fix these games. And of course, he wound up fixing the NBA Finals, Heat versus the Mavericks. So when Dwayne Wade says he has 4 championships, and Shaq, no, you don't. Dirk Nowitzki didn't get a fair shot at you. So he was owned by the mob, and eventually the FBI caught wind of this, and he got arrested, went to jail, testified about it, blah, 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 blah. But the point is, when you tell one tiny lie, well, sometimes it puts you in a really bad spot. And that is the moral of the story. In Cubs to Bears, good bears always tell the truth. I told you I'd bring that full circle. That was basically one big sales pitch. Buy my books. It was one big sales pitch. But yeah, good bears always tell the truth. And then, of course, my second book, The Right to Bear Arms. Now, can anyone guess what The Right to Bear Arms is about? My book? Any guesses? It's about the First Amendment. No, I'm just kidding. It's about the Second Amendment. It's about teaching children that they have the right to bear arms. They have the right to own guns. And it does that, well, there's a typical way you can do that, and you could say, the Constitution of the United States states that we have a right to bear arms, blah, 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 blah. But the book is different because I want children to understand, in this world, to operate as an adult. You wish we had the right to arm in England. You just got to take it. Just got to take it. I know it's easy to say, right? Easy for you to say. Must be nice to live in the United States of America with your fixed elections and your right to bear arms. No, but Cubs to Bears, the right to bear arms. So I want to teach children the mechanisms that the controllers use to manipulate things and melt their brains. So really, the book is designed to show how they're psychologically targeted so that they would voluntarily give up their right to bear arms. So to do that, the book starts with the news media or the roosters basically saying, reporting every morning, oh my God, there's all these skunk attacks. The skunks keep spraying everyone, and all the animals fall for that, of course, except the bears, who say, this story stinks. But the skunks ultimately succumb to social shame because a skunk without stink could do no harm. And the skunks give up their stink. And the book goes on, and then the roosters report of a rabbit that was attacked. And the poor rabbit had bear claw marks across its back. And the roosters reported that the bears attacked and it's implied, but killed this bunny rabbit. But upon further examination, you might notice that the paw prints next to the rabbit, those aren't bear prints. They're cat prints. And of course, the cat is the main villain. And I have a lesson plan that goes with the book. It's so every book that I make comes with a lesson plan. And the lesson plan actually has the children investigate the crime scene. And upon investigation, with a little guidance from their parents, they'll find out that the prints next to the bunny rabbit are cat prints, not bear prints. And what the media was reporting, the roosters, wasn't true. Mass school shootings will be back in an attempt to take away. Well, I mean, I'm not saying that the government carries out false flag operations. I would never say such a thing. But if I were writing the script, if that were something I did, if I were a propagandist instead of just the old history major who studies propaganda, I would say that it would be a great time if they pull off what some people have alleged to be stolen election. It would be a great time to carry out a series of gun-related events to push for an attack on the right to bear arms. I missed that comment. The problem when you have it on the phone, the comments you get them for a second and they go away. But anyway, so that's The Right to Bear Arms. So those are my books. Good Bears Always Tell the Truth. The Right to Bear Arms. We need to combat the haters that gave me a poor review on Amazon. These gun-hating mask-tards that gave me a bad review. You need to get on there right now and say that this book is fire. By the way, if you want access to the book, I started another page on YouTube. It's the Cubs to Bears YouTube page. Cubs to Bears YouTube page, and it's the children's version. It's for children, but I actually have the full YouTube version reading, pictures included, of both Good Bears Always Tell the Truth and The Right to Bear Arms. And so you don't even have to buy the book to do the lesson with your children. You could literally, I mean, don't do me dirty like that, guys. But you could just, you could just show your children the video version of my books, and then at www.classicallearner.com, download the free lesson plans that go with them. I'm not as thrilled about that, but I am very thrilled about children learning about psychological operations, because good bears always tell the truth unless they are talking to the cops or the IRS. Well, no. Well, I mean, here's the thing about that. Good bears still always tell the truth, but that doesn't mean you have to answer the questions of cops or the IRS. In fact, what I would recommend, I talked about earlier about learning your rights, is learning how to, rather than never argue with the police officer, never argue with a government official. What you do is you ask questions. Here's an example. So, did I tell this story on YouTube? I shut down an entire voting center. Do you have one called the Half Good Bear? The Half Good Bears are fully good. I shut down an entire voting booth a few days. They had early voting in America. For those of you in other countries, in other parts of the world, watching what's happening in America in horror, as the one political leader in the world pushing back against the New World Order is being coup d'etat in front of the world. Shit, I blanked out. What was I talking about there? Oh yeah, I shut down a voting booth. So they had early voting. So I went, it was at a country club, and I showed up, and there were lines throughout the parking lot. So there's like a zigzag line going, there's a lot of people. I'm in New York, highly populated area, blah, blah, blah. So I waited on the line, and I really just wanted to wait on the line because I wanted to vote without a mask because I'm obnoxious, and I feel like that's how you exert your rights. So I showed up on the line, and I didn't have my mask on, and sure enough, an official comes up to me and says, sir, you have to have your mask on. So I said, I don't wear the mask for health reasons. Now, mind you, I didn't say that I have a medical condition. I just said I don't wear the mask for health reasons, which is true. I find not breathing fresh air and breathing in my exhaled fumes to be, to have negative consequences on my health. Call me crazy, but not breathing fresh air might not be good for your health. So I said, I don't wear the mask for health reasons. And he said, sir, well, if you want to vote, you have to wear the mask. Just wait for false flag shootings to start. Starring guys, yeah, we know we all know it's coming. I'm not saying that's coming, but we all, I said, I don't wear the mask for health reasons. If you want to act it, what I'm going to do. No! What just happened? Man, it's... Are you guys still there? It's just buffering. Stop buffering. I'm telling my story. Stop buffering. I feel like you guys can't hear me. I'm bummed out. Am I there? Oh, you hear me. Richie hears me. Ha ha! We're back in the game, folks. Teresa Swan, thank you. I'm just gonna, it says it's buffering, but I'm assuming you guys can hear me. All right, great. So, anyway, so I'm waiting online. The guy tells me I have to wear a mask. I tell him I don't wear the mask for health reasons. He says, well, you have to put on a mask to vote. So I could have acted belligerent. I could have started arguing with him, yada, yada, yada. I don't do any of that anymore. So my whole thing is I wanted to shift liability. And this is an important concept I want everyone to understand in their interactions with authority. So rather than argue with him, I started to ask him questions. I said, I just want to clarify. are you suppressing my right to vote? And he looked at me and he didn't quite know what to say. So then I asked another question. I said, are you familiar with the Americans with Disabilities Act? Now, here's the good part. Well, at that point, he said, I'll be back, sir. I have to go speak with someone. So he walked away from me. But here's the good part. Keep in mind, I never said I had a medical condition. So I never said anything fictitious. I said, I don't wear the mask for health reasons. And then when I asked him questions, I said, are you familiar with the Americans with Disabilities Act? He assumed that what I said about the health reason and me asking him, he just assumed I was an American with a disability. And he assumed he was violating my rights, which he was for a variety of reasons. But anyway, so he went, he made a phone call or whatever he did, and then he came back to the line. And before he started talking to me, I took out my phone and I said, sir, I'm going to be recording our interaction from this point forward. Which I found very interesting because he said, okay. He said, okay. And he picked up his phone and he made a phone call. So I don't know if this changed what he was going to do in me recording. But he said, yes, I'm here with the guy and he's recording me now. And his superior told him something. And he hung up the phone and he said, okay, sir, I just spoke with my superior and you do have the right to vote. And we can't make you wear the mask. Isn't that interesting? What I did was I shifted the liability and I put it on them. And because of that, they backed down. I didn't act belligerent. I didn't argue. I just started asking them questions. And when you ask them questions, you can get them to incriminate themselves. And because they know what they're doing is wrong. But so he submitted. He said, okay, sir, you can vote. So he had one last tactic. And that tactic, the least likely tactic to work with me, was social shame. So he says, okay, sir, you can vote, but in order for you to vote without a mask, we're going to have to shut down we're going to have to clear out the entire building. So if you get to the front of the line, we're going to have to clear out the entire building, and then you could vote in an empty building, and all these people behind you are going to have to wait on the line with the line stopped. Or you could come back later in the day at a certain time, and you could just walk right in and vote, and we'll have it set up for you. He wanted me to feel social shame and to back down. So at that point, I said to him very proudly, I have a right to vote, and I'm here now. See, he wanted me to take responsibility for him shutting down the voting center. But that's not on me. That's on him. That's on Governor Cuomo or whoever's putting out that order, right? I didn't tell him to shut down the voting center. He's treating me like a virus, like a secondhand citizen, and he wants to shut down the voting center. That's his social shame. That's not mine. In fact, when I got to the front of the line, they did stop the line, and they waited 30 plus minutes for the building to clear out. And then I voted in an empty building with a big ass smile on my face. I voted like the king. They cleared out the whole damn building for me. But interestingly, when I was on the front of the line, I'd be remiss to say, I was a little nervous. I had the line of people behind me, and they were realizing what's happening. I'm like, oh, shit, all these people are waiting on this line, and they're going to be like, put on your mask. But interestingly enough, I was very pleased that all of the anger was directed at the voting center. They told the center that they were ridiculous, that they were being paranoid, and it was no big deal. So I won over the people, which was nice, because I was standing there a little nervous, and you got a mob of people. Anyway, who wants to deal with the mob? So, but this brings me back full circle, because I haven't even addressed the purpose of this stream, which was never letting a good crisis go to waste, right? Have you ever heard the politicians say, like Rahm Emanuel and these corrupt mass. Anyway, you ever hear these people? They say never let a good crisis go to waste. When there's a school shooting, we have to make sure that all the guns are confiscated from everyone. I think the issue is that government and corporations have combined, which is equal fascism. Yes, America and most countries in the world are some variation of fascism, because it's either corporations buying off government or government leveraging power to control corporations. And fascism, the definition of fascism is a corporate government partnership for the purpose of serving the state, but in many cases corporations act as the state, along with dictatorial powers. Now you could argue if powers are dictatorial or not, but they're currently in the midst of, allegedly, could it be stealing an election? So it seems pretty dictatorial to me. But they, never let a good crisis go to waste. Okay, I like the way you think. So right now in America, you have 70 million people under the impression that they are being disenfranchised. Now that is a very powerful opportunity, because they create the crisis. Problem, reaction, solution, the Hegelian dialectic. Let's create a crisis. Let's offer the solution to the crisis that we already had before the crisis started, and get the people to think our solution was their idea. If it wasn't so devious, you gotta tip your cap. It's brilliant. It is brilliant. So now you got all these people angry about the election. Good. I say good. People seeing that the system might be a little flawed, that perhaps the media isn't all that honest. Maybe these polls weren't all that accurate again. Maybe Trump won North Carolina the night of the election. Why won't they call it? And why did they call Arizona for Biden 3 minutes after the polls opened, even though it seems like Trump is going to win Arizona? Something seems off. And I just saw this video showing voter fraud, and my God, the media is not even reporting on the fraud. And who is in charge of running this election? Bureaucrats? Well, who put these bureaucrats in place? Party-affiliated people? What is going on? Wait, are you saying the people that are in charge of running these elections are the same people that appoint the director of the CDC, the Center for Disease Control? Are you saying that all of these powerful medical officials that work in Washington, D.C. are appointed by the same people who run these elections? Could it be that the medical industrial complex, could it be that the medical industrial complex is in fact corrupt? Wait a second. How did they steal the election? Well, for the first time ever, they were able to send out unsolicited mail-in ballots to every citizen in almost the United States of America. Maybe not every state, but every citizen in X number of states. Unsolicited, were just sent these mail-in ballots. That's never happened before, which put an extraordinary number of unaccounted for ballots allegedly on the streets. And then they were able to petition a judge and say, Judge, this is what they did. As a DNC person, he petitioned the judge. He said, Judge, you have all these old people, and they just can't handle, even the mail-in ballots, they can't handle getting those ballots back to getting those ballots back to where they have to be counted on time. So here's what we need to do. We need you to legalize what's called ballot harvesting. Term of the day, ballot harvesting. What is ballot What is ballot harvesting for 500? Did that guy die today? Alex Trebek, is that his show? I don't know. I was never down with the shows. But ballot harvesting. And the judge said, okay, we better legalize ballot harvesting because how are these people going to vote? And what that means is it allows party operatives to allegedly go door to door and pick up everyone's ballots and then bring those ballots to be counted. But we don't know if the people that were mailed the ballots ever actually got the ballots. We don't know if what the ballot harvester collecting the ballots told them. They might have said, well, if you're not voting, we'll take your ballot, and just filled it in. So that's why you have these people dropping off 180,000 consecutive Biden. What are the mathematical probabilities of one person getting 180,000 consecutive votes? Or in another case, 23. What is the math? All right, for all the people that told the mask-tards that told me I had wear the mask because it's science. All right, science lovers, what is the mathematical probability of one candidate getting 23,000 consecutive votes? What is the mathematical probability of someone getting 23,000 consecutive votes? I would say it's 0. Ooh. Why don't you put on your mask? Put on your mask, you spreader. Are you one of those spreaders? I'm glad I'm back on YouTube. My account will be gone within 3 days. If my account's gone, I'm just gonna jump to D Live. They're a better platform anyway. They don't censor people. They let people speak their mind. Isn't that a crazy concept? So that's ballot harvesting. So anyway, so now you say, okay, so wait, mail-in ballots, unsolicited mail-in ballots, ballot harvesting were made possible because the heads of the CDC and the medical industrial complex said that we had to shut down society, that you were going to die if you stepped outside, and that the only way to carry out this election safely was to let people vote from home. Isn't that interesting how connected what happened with COVID-19 is to what's going on with the election? The same people, the same government. Isn't that fascinating? Are you going to comply with Joe Biden's mask mandates? Are you going to comply with mandated vaccines? When the government comes to bend you over, when the government shows up and says, kindly bend down and touch your toes while I penetrate your skin and blow a load of toxic metals into your body, are you going to comply? Sounds a lot like rape to me. What do I know? What do I know? I'm just a historian who reads too many books and says forbidden words on the internet. Could someone make me a cover and send it to me? I was telling my wife the other day, I'd really get back in the game if someone could send me, they can vaccinate my corpse. Amen, brother. If they could send me a remix, but like one that sounds good, that's like, I'm coming. You've been struck by a thought criminal. Thought criminal. All right, they're telling me I had to get going. The point is never let a good crisis. Make sure the people that are outraged about the election understand how connected it all is to medical tyranny, something called the medical industrial complex, the head of the CDC, Dr. Fauci, and all of it. Make sure that's connected. By the way, go to my website and join my email list, www.classicallearner.com, www.classicallearner.com, www.classicallearner.com. I need a jingle. www.classicallearner.com. I feel like everyone that has a jingle is successful. You know? There's like, on Long Island, there's these two attorneys. It's Salino and Barnes, injury attorneys. And you see their posters everywhere, but apparently either Salino or Barnes now died in a plane crash. And I suspect foul play. All right, guys, I'll catch you later. Twitter, I am at Classic Learner, at Classic Learner on Twitter. Check out my Later, guys.